Councillors, those here in attendance and those who might be listening in, today as we meet here on the unceded lands of the Palawa people, the original and ongoing owners of the land, I open today's ordinary meeting at 1 p.m. Thank you. We do have one apology here as a part of our attendance today from Councillor Gibson. I have no mayoral acknowledgements, but at 3 declarations of interest, a councillor must declare any interest that councillor has in any matter before any discussion on that matter commences. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Pentridge? Merino Street? Sure. So are you declaring an interest? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get there. Easier to... Okay, that'll be your call, but we'll get the paperwork done if that's required. That's okay. Confirmation of minutes, 4.1. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held here at the City of Launceston on the 3rd of October be confirmed as true and correct record. Somebody to move. Councillor Dawkins, seconded by Councillor Harris. All those in favour? That is all councillors present. The motion is carried. At 5, we have council workshops 5.1, with the recommendation being that council notes the published council workshops conducted and attended since the last council meeting. Somebody to move. Moved by Councillor Britton, seconded by Councillor Harris. Councillor Britton, nothing to speak on? Councillor Harris, anything from around the table around workshops conducted? Okay, putting it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. At 6, we have councillors' leave of absence. These applications will be discussed in closed council around 23.2 and 23.3. We have no community reports identified, I believe, at this agenda. At 8, we have public question time. 8.1, public questions on notice, which are published as a part of this agenda. At 8.2, we have public questions without notice, noting that the rules and regulations, they are displayed and available upon entry. You may ask a total of 3 questions each. Mr. Baines.
Thank you, Mayor. First question, what is the situation with virtual site at the moment?
Cool, thank you, Mr. Baines. Acting CEO.
Thank you for the question. At the moment, staff are working with consultants to evaluate future options for that land holding, and it's anticipated at this stage that either later this month or early next month, Council will receive analysis on possible uses to activate the site.
Thank you. I understand members of the City of Launceston may be travelling to London on a fact-finding mission, apparently with a view to improving our fair city. Having lived and worked in London for about 3.5 years, I can't figure out what a city of about 10 million could have to compare with a city like ours at around 70,000. Could Council explain how spending thousands of taxpayers' dollars on trips can help Launceston? I suppose the change of scenery is as good as a holiday.
Thanks, Mr. Baines. Whilst this might be seen as a fact-finding mission, Launceston is up for an international award in terms of its placemaking and branding with Launceston Central and the Lounge, and there will be delegates from all over the world. It won't just be around London that is actually providing the opportunities for conversation and to look around their city. That just happens to be where it is this time around, but there will be people from all around the world that will be conducting themselves over the couple-of-day conference, as well as Launceston specifically being recognised for its work in its community space.
Thank you. So a report of that trip will be made to the public, I presume?
100%. Just like all of our trips that we go there will be extensive pieces of work that will be provided to the community as a part of that.
If you need a ratepayer's view on that, I'd be happy to go along, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll note that as an option there for you, Mr. Baines. Just the 2 questions, Mr. Baines, with the subsequents? Okay, thank you. Nice to see you again, Mr. Baines. Further questions, Ms. Ives?
Someone's foot. Oh.
There we go.
I've got 2 questions today. The first is a bit of a history lesson, actually. Gorge materials, where are they now? For more than a decade, from 2008, there was a band of 20 or more volunteers registered with and overseen by officers and managers from the council. Based at the Basin Cottage, which was then an information centre, volunteers provided guided walks, interpretation services, art exhibitions, monthly expert-led public gorgeous walks and talks explorations, as well as being scheduled on a weekly roster for daily shifts as cottage attendants, 7 days a week, greeting and informing visitors specifically about the many features of the gorge. General information about Launceston and the state was often provided. It was a well-resourced facility with a major renovation and refurbishment occurring in more recent times. Without ceremony in 2018, the volunteers were made redundant to allow for visual displays. At this time, the volunteers were required to pack up the resources and furniture. Amongst the resources were 100 listed acquired reference books, a large crafted replica model of the original Duck Reach power station, many documents and special items such as the Fry's chocolate dispensing machine. This machine now proudly stands inside the reception area at Town Hall, thanks to my request, and have it safely stored, which Councillor Gibson facilitated. Where is this unique Duck Reach power station model, which on my departure was stored in a high cupboard at the cottage? The extensive collection of reference books, for which I have an inventory, were taken by a council officer to the Town Hall. Where are they now?
Great, thank you for the question. Acting CEO.
We'll take that question on notice, Ms Ives.
Thank you. And my second question, sorry it was so very long. Consultation for Carvilla Flora Reserve. A recent public survey for the Carvilla Memorial Park Master Plan, focusing on capacity, crematorium operations, services and maintenance, has been issued. Community feedback to shape this plan for the future is being sought. In the media release of the survey, why was there no mention of the special and unique native flora in the Bushland Reserve area given? Did Council consult with any experts in plant ecology in the drawing up of the master plan? There needs to be consideration given for the maintenance for the health of the entire area because of the fragility of the plant communities within it.
Okay.
How will protection of this unique stand comprising special endemic fragile species be guaranteed? Roy Scabo and the Australian Plant Society's Tasmanian Northern Group and Friends of Carvilla Flora Reserve would have expert knowledge of the species and their health needs. Roy has conducted annual spring plant education walks through this area. The Friends working bees have been really well attended, some 20 people attending, showing the great interest that the public has in the bushland there. It is advised for Council to consult with knowledgeable local naturalists about the important natural values of the area before they make decisions.
Thank you for the question. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to your first question, the Carvilla Memorial Park Flora Reserve has not been featured specifically within this survey, as it is not part of the Carvilla Memorial Park site operations and not being considered within the development of the plan. In terms of a draft master plan, it has not been developed at this time as the consultation phase of the project has only just started. Consultants for the project have been well briefed on the natural values of the site and have been provided with expert advice reports which identify the ecology of the area, including the threatened and endangered species identified. And the flora reserve, as mentioned previously, is not considered within the development of the plan.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good to hear. But the other part of it is, sorry, I shouldn't be doing this, but the other part of it is that it is a very fragile ecosystem that exists there. And it's very special. There's nowhere else some of those plants exist, especially those little orchids.
Thank you. And that will definitely...
About it.
No, that's great to have your passion here today, and that will definitely be
I
taken.
learned a lot about Launceston's ecology through going on that experience.
Great. And it's our job to ensure that that continues for generations to come as a part of that development there. Thank you. Further questions from the floor? Mr. Smith?
Mr. Mayor, Robert Smith, Brisbane Street. Thank you. Brisbane Street, 137 Brisbane Street, Coffee Republic. First question, I heard about Birchall's, and while you're in the process with that microphone, the Birchall's building, it appears to be graffiti. I've asked a question before about graffiti. There's a large, exceedingly large tag on it. It's probably the biggest sign in the city. It's certainly bigger than Maya's sign as I look from the street. I assume they gained access through Birchall's building to tag that sign.
So can I just confirm, is that on the front side or the car park side? Mall side, car park side?
Right in the centre of the Birchall's building.
Okay.
So I think they had a house painting roller and painted. It's 30, 40, 50 metres long, the tag. Are they gaining access? Is there something council could do to secure that if they are gaining access from the council's building? I assume you still own it, please.
Yes, yep. Let's take that on notice, Mr. Smith, and we'll have a real look into that.
Thank you. I previously asked questions about the e-scooters, particularly as I work in the mall. E-scooters, I've asked about the controlling of them. I asked a question 27th of January 2022, and again August 22nd, 24, and 3rd of October 2024. Your officer wrote, this is item 8.1.2, and in a question, your officers responded regarding the controlling of where e-scooters go by rejecting my assertion that they are permitted by the road rules, and your officer indeed cited via the bylaws that the Traffic Act controls the scooters. From what I understand is that the road rules are more specific than the Traffic Act in controlling the scooters. Therefore, it appears that they're permitted to go these places, and there's a Latin maxim that apparently covers that one strength of a law versus another, where there's a conflict. It's generalia specialibus non derogant, which essentially means the stronger law wins. Would the officers possibly be able to go back, have a look at that conflict of the two controls and give an opinion back, please?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Yes, we'll take that on notice.
Thank you. Again, with the scooters, this has come about because of the shenanigans of certain scooter companies in Australia. I look at a document that was prepared. This is an in-house document, e-scooter trial evaluation, prepared by council officers. We've had the very wide issues of allegations against some of the scooter companies, and indeed, even in Tasmania, there are elected politicians that receive thousands of dollars from people who later worked for one of the scooter companies. Admittedly, this donation was declared. But when I read the council's prepared document, and I have asked a question about this before, certainly some of the text and some of the images seem to be, how can I put it, cheesy, almost not believable, and a little bit biased if they are members of the public making these statements, for example. In the future, I'm considering bringing to council that if an officer were to write a report, that they declare where the information and the comments come from, whether it's artificial intelligence or whether they're lobbied or whether they're provided by the individuals. Is that something, if I were to bring that, you don't have anything parallel running to that at the moment. If I were to bring that to council in the future, that an officer were to declare where the information came from and if AI was involved in the writing of those documents, please?
We would look, I'll take that on notice, as we would look through our policies when it comes to reporting, privacy, those sorts of elements would be a part of that, but we'll take that on notice.
Declaring if it was AI or if they were lobbied. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further comments from the floor? Questions without notice? Okay, there being none, we'll continue through the agenda. We have no petitions or deputations that have been identified as a part of this agenda. So moving into Planning Authority. Under the provisions of the Land Use Planning Act and approvals of 1993, Council acts as a planning authority in regard to items included in agenda item 11. 11.1, we have 30 Merino Street, Kings Meadows, planning scheme amendment, change of zone from light industrial to low density residential. Now, we do have some further circulated attachments, a part of agenda item 11.3, as well as we do prepare as planning authority. But dealing with 11.1 right now, looking to that 30 Merino Street, do we have anyone from the public, any public representations here today that would like to speak? I've got no one noted, nobody to speak. Okay, we'll move forward to the recommendation then. That recommendation is that Council recommends to the Tasmanian Planning Commission that a draft amendment be approved as certified and exhibited. Somebody to move. It's been moved by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Dawkins. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so this is 30 Merino Street, which has two zoning changes on it. Part of the land is light industrial, part of the land is low density residential, and the aim is to combine it all into one low density residential lot, which would then allow the and also install a priority vegetation overlay over the land, which as light industrial it hasn't got at the moment. And so this has been before us, I think, before. Yes, thank you. And so this is really the second time for it. There have been a couple of representations, I guess. One from the truck maintenance and sales area that would immediately abound it. And he's worried about the problem of residential land, even though it is low density, up against the industrial zone land, and we have seen in the past those sorts of conflicts. However, I'm quite comfortable that this proposed rezoning of bring it all under one as low density land will in fact be a long-term better outcome for the area. What tends to happen is the best land gets used first, and I guess if you look at the industrial land and also at both Merino Street and off Connector Park Drive, those areas that were more easily able to be developed have been developed as light industrial. But this other bit has been, because of its steepness and probably the rock and everything else that's there, been left. It does, as a low density residential area, have the potential to expand and have some larger lots for housing, but also provide buffers to the industrial areas, simply because of the sheer distance that they would, the blocks that have been proposed would be from the actual fence lines with the industrial areas. Plus, it enables us to provide a vegetation overlay that will help protect the Kings Meadows rivulet that runs down the southern side of this particular piece of land. So I'm very supportive of this particular rezoning, and I look forward to my councillors being the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Councillor Dawkins is the seconder.
Thank you. Yes, we did have quite a lengthy debate when it first came to the table. My constituents were most concerned about that scenic protection aspect of it, and of course now we understand that priority vegetation overlay will actually offer more protection for biodiversity. So I think that's very important for the community, and I will be supporting this.
Thanks, Councillor Dawkins. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks. I stand to support the application as well. We did have a robust discussion about this a few weeks ago before it went out for public display. I've read the objections that came back in regards to one being supportive of it, others questioning various things, and I think a lot of it is actually about what's going to be built on it at some stage in the future. At this stage, we're not building anything. All we're doing is rezoning and enabling the ability for something to be done. And I think Councillor Dawkins has also spoken about the overlays, which I think are far better protected. It's a very difficult block of land, we all know. Low density res, I think our officers are recommending that's probably the best use of the land that's there. But every development application will be taken on its merits, and some of the issues that have been raised by the representors will be dealt with at a future meeting when a DA is put before us.
Thank you, Deputy. Further comments around the table? Councillor Walker, a question?
Yeah, thank you. And of course, we're not here to discuss future developments on the site, but if it is to be rezoned as low density residential, what then would, bearing in mind that that is what we're discussing today, what rights would anyone who is living in that low residential area then have over industrial activities in the light industrial adjacent areas, I suppose? We already have low density residential in part of that section anyway, so in a sense, it's already a precursor that arrangement already exists, but we will be extending that arrangement to another boundary, which may or may not have activities in a light industrial area that are conducive or otherwise to low density residentials. So in doing so, all I'm saying is, by rezoning that and finally approving that, are we creating any further issues?
Senior Town Planner Ian.
Thanks for the question. I don't believe so. The scheme offers quite a few protections for the property, and the property is heavily constrained. There is natural value, so that priority vegetation that will be extended. There's an attenuation code that requires some buffers when developing future development. There's a scenic protection SAP as well. There's bushfire. There's steep topography. So subject to a future application, depending on what they may be, will be required to address relevant provisions within the scheme, which will alleviate that potential conflict between the land uses.
Thank you.
I was going to speak with your question.
A question, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, just on that boundaries you were talking about, is there a distance that a future development can't get within the boundary of the industrial? Or could, in fact, if the best bit of land for building their house is 10 metres off the current fence on the industrial side, they can build there?
Generally, broadly, it's around 50 metres is a buffer area. If you look to the north of the subject site, there's a very similar development, which is low density residential, which maintains a 50 to 60 metre buffer.
To speak, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do rise to support that we adopt the changes that have been advertised and representations have been heard. And I do share some of those concerns. The access issues, these are all things that will happen in the future, but I think I've been here now long enough to realise that sometimes these things do come back to bite you. By approving this today, we will see potentially in the future with this site development applications, road access and exits. There are a number of possible scenarios that could play itself out there, and that may cause issues in the future. Is that for us to consider today? Unfortunately, the way the system works, no. We take note of those, whether it's the attenuation zones, noise. When I did ask that question, I suppose I was thinking more in terms of the light industrial owner, not the low residential owner, because they might be doing some activity now that in 3 years' time, all of a sudden they're told to cease and desist because they are now, operating at a time that it affects people in a residential zone. Having said that, this piece of land, as has been mentioned, is problematic. In an ideal world, this piece of land might provide a small amount of green space, a connection corridor towards the back of the high school or from Merino Street through to other industrial parts. That's not the case. We don't own the land. We don't get to decide what happens there. This is privately owned land. This is a good use of that land if all of those other factors don't become major concerns in the future. So I wish the landowner well, and for anyone, prospective person who wishes to develop there, the good luck in terms of doing that in a sensitive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Professor Raze.
Thank you. In the view of increased residential properties around connector parks and lack of green spaces in Kings Meadow areas, specifically playground, at the same time, we are saying that the proposal will protect the vegetation around this. So, and then in response to recommendation 4 or 5, it says that there is no, it's identified, the site has not been identified as intended for green space. What I feel, if we manage to put a proposal that to protect our vegetation with increased residential places, don't you think even recommendation in the future will be possible to have a green space for future playground, which will actually accommodate the wishes of the residents in Kings Meadow area?
Thank you. Councillor Professor Raze.
That's the question, yes.
Yes. Yep. No. Town planner Ian's.
Yeah, I think I understand. Again, subject to future application through subdivision, there are provisions through log bump that look at the provision of public open space. So that would need to occur in those discussions with the landowner or developer at the time of a subdivision, if that is what's proposed in the future.
Thank you. Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Harris to close.
Thank you, Mayor. And might just make a quick comment on Councillor Raze's comment about the green space. Of course, there is the large area just across the Kings Meadows connector that will be developed as a residential playground and green space for mainly the Youngtown subdivision. That's there, and I forget the name of the subdivision now, but that's quite a large one. So there will be some there, but of course with low density lots, it does enable us to have more green space for the animals and things to be able to move their way through. They tend not to notice where the fences are, they just move where they want to go. So I think this, in the balance of fairness, this is a good use of the land, and I look forward to everyone's support to rezone it to low density residential.
Thank you. Okay, putting it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. At agenda item 11.2, we have 64 Robin Street Planning Scheme Amendment. He's coming. As Councillor Pentridge rejoins the table. Do we have any public representation around 11.2 Robin Street? Okay, there being none, we'll move forward to the recommendation that this council, in accordance with the section 40K42 draft amendment, be approved as certified and exhibited. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Harris. Deputy Mayor.
I think it's pretty straightforward. It's been out for public consultation. It's now come back for us to now. There's been no representations that I'm aware of. Therefore, I think we just sign up to it and move on.
Great, thank you. Councillor Harris, anything to add? Anything round the table? Councillor Walker.
Yes, and pleasing to see that there were no representations, just as today there were no speakers for this item, as it is known as previously the building, the Masonic Hall in Newstead, and that the owner did seek to have this included in the heritage list, which is a great example, I think, for Launceston, that many of us do recognise that we might own a property that has heritage value, and in this case, quite unique heritage value, and it is destined to go forward, and that recommendation to be sent off, which is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Nothing further from the table? Okay, put it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. At 11.3, we have 16 Canning Street, as well as 1.5 Frederick Street. We've got the subdivision boundary adjustments, and as noted, as we stepped into Planning Authority, there has been circulated some further documentation around the table. And speakers to this one, I believe I have some noted speakers at 11.3. Starting with Michael.
Yes, thank you, Council. I live at 171 St John Street, which backs into the laneway, 16 Canning. And like a number of the other residents, I had a number of concerns. I'm against, but I've just got some concerns I'd like to raise.
Sure.
Which some of them seem to be a bit addressed in the documentation, but I'd like to raise them anyway. One concern is the water runoff. There is water runoff in the laneway that, and where it curves into the hospital grounds, which is where the boundary of the subdivision still is, that runs into the properties. And I'm really obviously concerned if the development will affect that, or particularly in an adverse way. Secondly, there's a stormwater sewage conjunction, I think, near there, and I again see that there are some references within the planning documents to dealing with that issue, but I would obviously hope that there would be some compliance with the stormwater and sewage requirements for that area, because again, I think there could be some concerns, particularly because it's old site and old pipes, and it would flow down into the properties on the other side. Third one, and a particular concern for me, but all the residents in the St John Street, is the access to our car park, car spaces, which are all in that laneway. We have currently no rights to park in St John Street, residents' rights. It's metered parking, and it's fairly, as I noted the other day, I walked there. There was a council person going along, booking people. So, but also obviously with the laneway, we can park. Most of us can park undercover, which is significant in terms of our cars, but also it's getting in and getting out. If you were to take that cut off of the boundary, and there is a cutaway at this point, if that was taken out, I would have great difficulty getting out of my garage. There's a growing level of traffic that uses that garage, and you have the complexity of either backing in or driving in forward. I have to back in because it would be completely unsafe to try and back out of that thing, particularly as I have to kink. I've had to beep my horn. The trucks generally that use that laneway to get into the hospital are usually pretty good. They are pretty alert. And some of the car users, but there are small cars that whip along there without any concerns that there could be people trying to get in or exit the garage. And I am concerned that both if that cutaway was removed or the level of traffic that's increasingly using that laneway is making it more and more hazardous for the residents, and that's been something that's been used over many years.
Now, Mr. Quinlan, the bell has gone, so
Yep.
if you just...
Oh, there's only one other issue.
Yep, no, that's fine. Just yep.
The regular, the ongoing maintenance of the laneway. That's the other issue. It does, because the trucks use it. It gets used a lot, and there's potholes open up.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinlan. Thank you, Mr. Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council. I have two concerns mainly. One is that there will be increased traffic in that laneway, obviously during whatever demolition and construction Calvary has planned for the future. But inevitably, increased business is Calvary's key driver in extending the site, and that's inevitably going to lead to increased traffic. This increased traffic, I live at 167, which is the second from the bottom of that block. And increased traffic will cause my neighbours further up the street more serious problems than I will as far as the traffic itself is concerned. But damage to the laneway and damage, more seriously perhaps, damage to infrastructure under that laneway, because of the slope of the land, is going to impact on us more than those neighbours further up the street. So we'd seek an assurance that the condition of the lane and the services under it will be closely monitored to ensure that our properties are not adversely affected by things like runoff and damage to drains and so on. Second concern is for the future well-being of those 6 houses. All of them are heritage listed, all 6. 4 of the 6 were owned and built and designed by James Bennell 180 years ago. This section of St John Street is often referred to as Quality Row and is a feature of the city's history and architecture, to the extent that it's included in guides to the city's heritage under the heading A Sense of Place. It's clear that Carrowby has some major plans for the site. I acknowledge that this DA is quite separate from those plans. And we applaud whatever Carrowby may have in mind to improve both health services in the north, but major demolition and construction occurring 50 metres uphill from these houses has the potential to damage them and, as a consequence, damage Launceston's heritage. The Tasmanian Heritage Council shares this view. 3 of its 4 points of advice in its Notice of Heritage decision relate specifically to this. After the owners themselves, you councillors are most responsible for maintaining the sense of place and heritage fabric of our city. I ask that when future plans for the hospital site are made public, that you take that responsibility as seriously as we, the owners, will. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any further comments or representations to the item? Okay, we'll move through to the recommendation. The recommendation is that a permit be granted for subdivision adjacent of the boundary, adjustment of the boundary between the 2 lots at 16 Canning Street and 1 to 5 Frederick Street, Launceston, subject to the published conditions. Do I have somebody to move? Deputy Mayor to move. Seconded by Councillor Harris. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start off by making some comments. I might ask a couple of questions at the end. Firstly, I applaud the representatives for coming along to actually get some information out, I guess, for St Vincent's to listen to, I guess, in a public forum in regards to some of the issues that they may have in regards to the laneway. The unfortunate part about most of those aren't actually related to the planning issues. We have a subdivision of a block of land that's being taken. The laneway is the laneway. Sure, there's been some reconfiguration of it, but at the end of the day, that's private access and agreements between the owners of the properties on how that are utilised. So unfortunately, there's not many things, I think, on the comments that were made that we actually have control over. I'd like to just, in a few moments, just challenge a couple of things as to whether any of these things can be conditioned. But I'll talk through, because I think, we're talking about a relatively simple subdivision. I think the key issue in relation to the subdivision is the parking. Previously, it was on one title, and as a result of being on one title, they could park anywhere and meet the parking requirements by subdividing off the area which is going to become the consulting rooms. They need 4 car parking spaces and they only have 2, and I think we've conditioned that there needs to be an easement for another 2 car parks to meet the requirements. So as long as that easement's in there, that relates to that. So unfortunately, the laneway and the quality of how the laneway is maintained is something that needs to be, I think, taken up between the owners of the properties in St John Street and the owners of St Vincent's Hospital, being Calvary, to determine how that's maintained and who contributes to that maintenance. I appreciate the traffic goes in and out, and I guess St Vincent's have every right to be able to utilise the property for their purposes, the way they do it. I hope that in relation to your parking arrangements that they are solid in regards to your ongoing ability to use those parking things. I think you've got easements that enables you to, or rights of way, to enable you to get in and out of it. Again, so I think most of those things are of a private nature between Calgary and the residents of St John Street as to how that is maintained on a going forward. I fully appreciate it's changing. The development of St Vincent's will take a different tack at some stage into the future. We will be faced with future redevelopment probably of that, at which time some of the issues that you've raised today become more relevant in a redefinition of what St Vincent's does and how that impinges on the rights that you as landowners in St John Street does. I think today is simply we're carving out one small property. We've enabled that to do. We've had the heritage advice in regards to it, so that's all being dealt with appropriately. So I'll finish off with just asking the questions about the runoff in the laneway and the stormwater and sewerage connections. Is there any planning basis on which any conditions can be made to ensure that what has been asked for there, and I guess that access to the parking in the laneway, particularly for the resident who's banged up against it, sort of to ensure that that doesn't preclude them from doing so. Are there any planning matters that we can look at that can actually protect in that situation?
Town Planner Duncan.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a difficult question in its own way, but the reality is that there are no specific works required, and so there are standard conditions on the permit requiring for any services between the existing title, also within the existing title. If we consider we're starting with 16 Canning Street, which is a large property with the old house on it, if you like, that's now being used as a medical centre, and the other university education building that's on there as part of the hospital facility. So some of the services between those two buildings will cross. And so because we've moved the title, there is the potential for some of those service lines to cross the new title. So there is a standard condition on there that those services either be capped or upgraded appropriately to meet Taswater standards. We don't have any capacity to require anything to be done in the laneway as a result of this. And therefore, so runoff issues, there's no concept that there'll be any increase in runoff as a result of this work or this boundary adjustment. The demolition of the rear of the building, that's not likely or expected to increase in any runoff, and the runoff from the building is expected to be directed into the existing stormwater connection. So any increased runoff would become the responsibility of the owners of the site, and then they would be required to take appropriate actions to direct that back to their own stormwater.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Harris is the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for what you've said. They've taken most of what I had written down about the right-of-way. As it says, and it is just to protect the existing building that fronts on Canning Street to make sure that it is on its own title. There is conditions about the relocation of what is currently a bluestone wall that holds up the extension that's going to be knocked down, that bluestone be reused to remain on site and to clean up what will be where the existing bit's knocked down. So it will be interesting to see what the owners of the property ultimately do, but as others have said, this is really just a subdivisional request, which has not a lot that we can do in doing so to force too many changes or to help the issues that are raised by the residents of St John Street. I do think that, based on the letter that we were sent, that the owners of the property will be a good neighbour, as they hopefully have been, to allow the right-of-way, and I would suggest that you continue to raise any issues with them so that they don't become early, so that they don't become issues down the track. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Any further comments around the table? Councillor Walker?
I think it's plain for everyone to see that there may be some further plans down the track when these quite otherwise anomalous changes are being made to boundaries around the area. But as previous speakers have said, that is not for us to discuss today. Nonetheless, there's a great opportunity here for these proposals to have a win-win. Not only does the hospital have a substantial sort of voluminous area at the back of their property that they can develop, They have properties that face onto Canning Street that would probably be part of that development, you would presume, looking at the changes that we are being asked to approve today. That should all be a good thing. That's inner city development. That's a service that many people will access, just like private schools have found their need to develop and expand and sometimes buy neighbouring properties. So too, a private hospital might wish to do a similar thing in an otherwise constrained area. But like I say, they do have this golden opportunity here. Then we get to the odd nature of the easement and the access road there that's split down the middle. This is a really golden opportunity for the hospital, and it should have been, I think, in this process to work with council and with neighbours to come up with a really good plan for that little strip of land, because we're all partially sort of responsible for that land. And I note with interest that it does go down around the corner past the Elders Council building as well. I didn't realise that, but it is a through road in that sense. So there should be an opportunity there, I think, to come up with really good solutions. And it's a pity it's not part of this initial plan. So we have to wait and see, as everyone said, what comes next. We know that the lot that is being excised, lot 2, is heritage listed. I'm not sure about the disappearing boundary on some of the other lots in the street, but I would imagine that there's some heritage provisions there, but I don't know. And I would imagine that the hospital does have some idea what they're going to do, but that is not something that we're privy to today. So, having said all that, I don't think there is any reason today for us to object to these changes. We've seen the heritage report. We understand the sensitive nature of the properties that face down to St John Street. They are part of our built heritage. And I also understand that and being a reasonable inner city owner myself, every square inch of your property is quite valuable. You know, where a brick is placed 10 centimetres one way or another can make a big difference. It might not be the same when you've got a quarter-acre block, but when you have a small, access and backyard and things like that, every little bit gets used. So I can definitely understand the concerns with that limited access that's there. I do encourage the hospital to share their vision for that access lane rather than leave it as a sort of a hanging question at the moment. I think, and to work with council, because as far as I'm aware, it's half ours. Is that correct? The laneway? It's half a road reserve, half on Calvary's title.
Thank you. No, council has no ownership of the lane.
Beg your pardon?
Council has no ownership of the lane.
Then what is the line down the middle of the road reserved for?
The line down the middle of the road, I suppose, is the boundary line of Calvary's ownership, and the ownership of the balance of the lane is in historic records through the Titles Office. So it's quite a common occurrence throughout the city that roads and lanes are of obscure ownership, and that ownership probably hasn't been identified for 100 years.
Somebody owns the other half of that road.
But nobody knows who.
Beg your pardon? Well, I can't take comments from the floor, and also I can't take that as legal representation as to what my question is. My question is, somebody owns that land, including the access next to the Elders Council, which I know that we have provided some service in terms of maintaining. Whether that was informal or not is another matter. We did make some effort to maintain that road. So I think this question needs to be cleared up, because this affects these landowners, and it will affect the hospital as well if they can't fulfil the things that they wish to in the future. So I'm just encouraging all the people involved to deal with that as a matter of haste. It's not going to make any difference to this decision today, but it's an obvious issue that needs to be dealt with. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any further comments around the floor? We can't take comments from the floor now.
No.
Anything around the table? Councillor Kai?
Could we condition that laneway becomes an easement so that it continues to be that even after?
Town Planner Duncan?
No, we can't. We have no capacity to put a condition over that laneway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else around the table? Anything to close, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'll just finish off. Thanks for the commentary, everybody. And again, I think today was a great opportunity for the residents of St John Street to actually make a representation to Calgary in a public forum, and I think that's good. And all I would say to Calgary is I hope you're listening and be a good neighbour and take on board the comments that have been made today in regards to how they deal with that property going forward. But in relation to the decision we're making today, it's a planning decision, and I think it's pretty straightforward. The easement in regards to the 2 car parking spaces overcome the issue with parking. So in my view, it's a very straightforward planning decision that we need to make.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Putting it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you to those representations. Thank you to those who came in. So council no longer sits as planning authority. As we move through the agenda, the announcements by the Mayor at 12.1 are published in this agenda. Do we have any councillor reports at 13? Councillor McMahon and Councillor Harris. Councillor McMahon. And Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. On Friday the 4th of October, I attended the Sir Optimist International 75th anniversary, and also thank you to Councillor Dawkins for her attendance as well. Sir Optimist International's core mission is to transform the lives and status of women and girls through education, empowerment and enabling opportunities. Over the years, they've supported so many causes, both locally, nationally and internationally, like the City Mission, premature baby packs for the LGH, sewing machines for the Connected Women's Community, Share the Dignity and Pamper Days for women with a disability. They are women who are passionate and determined, but go about their business with grace, empathy and pride, and in 2023 were inducted into the Tasmanian Honour Roll for Women. It is an honour to be their patron and honorary member. I have found myself amongst women who share my passion to serve, my vision to empower women and girls, and the desire to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McMahon. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I attended last night the opening of ReadyTech's Launceston office down in what we probably know now as the St Luke's building at 93 Cemetery Street. They actually employ 45 staff in there, mostly software developers. Their service of ReadyTech is in fact a software as a service developed here in Launceston. It is their choice. They have a Sydney office, but this is where they wish to grow their staff because of our city's livability and the desires of people not necessarily to live in Sydney, who may well see that as the logical place when you've got those skills. So it was a great and eye-opening to see ReadyTech because I had never heard of them. And I think it's good to see companies like that coming to our city. And certainly the 93 Cemetery Street building continues to get filled up, not only with St Luke's Health occupying a few floors. These guys have a whole floor. I did notice there's one empty. Perhaps these guys, as they did say, they intend to double their staff, might have their eye on that second floor within the building. I also attended on Sunday the 40th anniversary of Peter Griffin being a member of the NTCA Umpires Association. Now, that was something that I attended on the Mayor's behalf, probably because the Mayor's on the NTCA committee. But Peter represents, obviously, 40 years of service as an umpire to our sporting community. And as he said, he has the best seat in the house when he's standing as an umpire. But he's seen the likes of David Boone and Greg Campbell, Ricky Ponting and George Bailey before they went on to all represent Tasmania and then Australia by playing out at the NTCA ground. And it's, whilst a recognition for Peter, there were many others in the room who have given many decades of service to umpires. Also the scorers, which is a very important part of the game of cricket. So I'd like to just not only recognise Peter's service, but to all those who donate their time and volunteer their time as umpires of all sports that we participate in our community. Without that, there simply wouldn't be any sports, and all of us should be looking for opportunities. Peter actually responded to an ad of people wanted in the Examiner. And believe it or not, he actually had a picture of the ad from 40 years ago. And finally, on Friday night, I, along with Councillor Palmer, and I'm not sure if the others were there, attended the opening night of Kinky Boots, which is put on by Encore Theatres. And once again, I would recommend to anyone who has an interest in theatre, and even if you haven't. I first saw this in London with my wife when we were there 7 years ago. I had no interest or understanding of what the actual show was about, but the one that we put on here in Launceston was just as good as the one I saw on the West End. So I do recommend to you, go forward and look at the, go to the theatre before it finishes. It just has a short run. I think it's this weekend and next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. I'm refraining from making any personal jokes around wearing heels and boots and things. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. This might be slightly out of cycle in that it's actually for the 30th of September. On my self-funded holiday to Japan just recently, I made a slight diversion to visit our sister city, Ikeda, which is just outside of Osaka. And my wife and I caught the train, and first thing we saw as we got off the train was a little stand in front of us full of wombats. And so Launceston, you would not believe how well promoted we are in Ikeda. All of the hard hats that their engineers wear have wombats on them. Their front painting out the front have wombats and emus and all sorts of Australiana on it. But they're also the founders of cup noodles, and they've got their own cup noodle museum where you can go and make your own cup noodles, design your patterns of your cup noodle boxes and take them home, which I did. But it was fantastic. I met the mayor, and a number of the councillors. Had lunch with them. They were extremely generous with their time and certainly with their support of Tasmania. And I think a couple of their
zookeepers.
Not vets,
zookeepers.
Agricultural people are coming out in about a month's time to come spend some time out here. They're going out to see Drew out at Wildlife Park on the basis that he's been over there helping them with various things. And I think they're certainly very much looking forward to the 60-year anniversary and coming to visit us this time next year. So it was a very worthwhile visit from my point of view. And I think they enjoyed it, even though they couldn't understand a word I was saying. But we had a lovely interpreter, Chiaki, who was out here about a month ago with some students, and she was extremely nervous about having to go and interpret for me, but she did a wonderful job. Just a fantastic relationship that we actually have, and they very much value Launceston as a sister city.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Great opportunity. Great opportunities overseas. Councillor... Oh, sorry, I'll go through a list. Councillor Britton, then Councillor Kai.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I was only partly there as a councillor and partly there as a business owner, but was there at the opening of the North Festival, and just wanted to say thanks very much to the guys from Launceston Central for putting on the North Festival, and just to reiterate that it is a really good event. As was said on the night, we get a lot of different things, Festivali, football, Run of Home or whatever, a lot of those pull people away from local venues, but the North Festival, by design, puts people inside those venues. They've got some pretty big plans for it moving forward, and I hope when the time comes we can all support it then, and I'll just say thanks very much to them and good luck. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Britton. Councillor Kai, then Councillor Palmer. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And yeah, last Friday night, along with Councillor Harris, Councillor Raze and yourself, Mayor, we all attended Kinky Boots, put on by Encore Theatre. Congratulations to Belinda King, another outstanding performance. And I'd just like to single out the lead role, Jared Pittman. He was outstanding, I thought. So if you have the opportunity, get along, check it out. Lots of wonderful performers that we have here in our beautiful city of Launceston. Along with the Deputy Mayor, I attended the Northern Suburbs AGM. Yeah, that's right. And I'd just like to congratulate you, Deputy. You are the President out there and you have been for several years. And words we often use, diverse, inclusive, multicultural community. Well, this place has it and so much more. The heart of our community with so many different programs. We heard from speakers Trish, Mary. They are amazing, amazing humans that do so much for the community, especially across the northern suburbs. The patron, Dr. Frank Medill, AM, is an outstanding man. He chaired the meeting. We also heard from Deb Clark, and she spoke about parenting programs, kindness and care for each other. There was about approximately 40 community members out there, and I'd just like to single out the collaboration between all the neighbourhood houses, Starting Point Neighbourhood House, the Mowbray House, and of course the Northern Suburbs. They just work so well together. They're unbelievable. I know that Starting Point, they probably have about 450 community members that go through there on a regular basis through the week. And the amount of volunteers that these houses have is just unbelievable. So if you get the opportunity to visit some of these houses, please do. They are incredible people that do so much for our city. Thanks very much.
Councillor Palmer. Councillor Kai.
Thank you. Same as Councillor Britton. So last Thursday, on the 10th of October, it was the Launceston Show holiday, and only this year the Launceston Show was suspended. But lucky for us, my family and I was among many families who still enjoyed the day out at the North Festival event. Thanks to the team from Launceston Central, that our community was still able to enjoy a great day out at Riverbend Park. There was a lot of picnics, great music, face painting, and a lady making balloon animals for the kids. The AFL Tasmania was also there. They had Tassie Devil activities to keep the kids busy. Children were encouraged to simply either kick the ball into the goals, or they're actually getting the children into teams and playing some footy games. There was also free Tassie Devil bags for anyone that got a goal. Overall, apart from the wind, it was a great day and a lovely family event. Okay, this is probably my last chance to remind everyone of the Heritage Sketch competition. So open to all children between the age of 4 to 17 with $1,400 worth of prizes waiting to be won. Entries close on Friday the 1st of November, so there is only 2 more weeks left to get submissions in. This year's Heritage Sketch theme is We Are Champions of Our Heritage. So to enter, simply submit an artwork in any form inspired by your favourite heritage place and write a short description of your artwork and what it means to you. For more information to submit your entry, please visit our City of Launceston website and search Heritage Sketch, or simply go to our customer service counter at Town Hall. There will be both information flyers and entry forms available. If you have any young children or know anyone who might be interested, please let them know. This competition is to motivate and encourage everyone, especially the young children, to be more aware of the beautiful architecture in our city. On the weekend, on Saturday, I saw a little girl, probably around the age of 8, submitting a 3D model of a beautiful heritage building made of cardboard. She was very, very proud, and she was telling the people in the library that, to be very careful handling her project, as on Saturday the town hall wasn't open, so she wasn't able to submit it here. So apparently you're allowed to submit it to the library as well. It is very heartwarming to know how much positive impact this competition will have on so many young children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kai. Okay, moving through the agenda to questions by councillors. At 14.1, questions on notice. They are published as a part of this agenda. 14.2, we have councillors' questions without notice. A question, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just reading the newspaper this morning and getting myself back on deck, there was a comment in regards to bushfire management in the gorge, and I just note, with all the storm activity and the commentary made by our infrastructure team in regards to the amount of work they've got to do to clean up after the storms, and that we're going to be going well into November to do that. I just guess, and I guess the predicted high temperatures that are coming through the summer, just in relation to that comment, is whether the General Manager can just make comment about our bushfire management plans up there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. General Manager Shane.
So look, we have a fire management strategy endorsed by Council and fire management plans for all our key reserves, which get 100% implemented as the plan proposed. So while we've got I guess, a potential of warmer weathers this year. We work closely with Tas Fire around appropriate times for mitigation, and often this time of year things like slashing comes up, and so we work closely with fire to get the timing right on those works. But in terms of the gorge, we're delivering as we said we would in our fire management plan.
Thank you. Councillor Britton.
I was just wondering if the scoping report for the flood mitigation report is still due this month.
I completed the draft agenda item yesterday, so it's lined up for next council meeting.
Thank you. Any further questions from councillors without notice? Okay, we'll move through to 15, where we have no notices of motion as a part of this agenda, but we do have some committee reports. At 16.1, we have the Cultural Advisory Committee report. The recommendation is that Council receives the report from the Cultural Advisory Committee with meetings held on the 7th of August and the 2nd of October. Councillor Walker is moving? Or Councillor Walker? Councillor Walker to move. Councillor Britton to second. Councillor Walker.
Perhaps I should have let my fellow councillor move that motion, Mayor, as Councillor Britton, through you, did actually chair the meeting I held on the 7th of August, where we did hear from one of our committee members in regards to a project called On the Swamp, an Invermay-based project looking at recognising and celebrating 100 years since the 1927 flood and the effects that had on that community and the resilience of that community as well. That's something that I think the council will be further informed of via Councillor Britton. He may wish to speak to that further, but otherwise, as can people see there, some sort of ongoing issues in regards to the Northern Gateway project. People might say, what is that? And they would be fair enough to say that, but there is a process at the moment where the state government is looking to assist council in providing some kind of welcome into Launceston. It's called the Northern Gateway, but really for us it's on the southern side of town, so it could be confusing unless we want one on the way to Georgetown. But anyway, public art projects as listed and ongoing discussions and subcommittee work by council officers and committee members in regards to the concept of a Launceston Arts and Creative Hub project, something that's only in its infancy, while other work goes on the Cultural Advisory Committee in terms of developing an arts grant policy, developing further public art policies and procedures and indeed permissions. But certainly that would be the other thing I would point to. There is provision in our budget this year for the development of arts grants, and it's in its early stages, but I would like to think that by the end of this year, or certainly at the start of next year, that the committee might be in a position to have the shape and form for which these art grants could proceed. Early days, as I say, but there is provision in the budget for it, so it is exciting in terms of public art and in terms of council's encouragement of the creative pursuits in Launceston. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Just quickly to give a bit of credit to Helene Boyer, who was doing a lot of work on the swamp and the 100-year anniversary. She's got some pretty grand ideas that I know she's going to bring to council in a workshop next month. So yeah, you'll be
cool.
Very interested.
Thanks, Councillor Britton. Any further comments around the table? Anything further to close? Okay, putting it to the vote to accept the report. All those in favour? All councillors present, the motion is carried. Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. This is the report with the recommendation to receive that report for the meeting on the 21st of August. Someone to move? Councillor Kai to move. A seconder? Councillor Pentridge? Councillor Kai.
This Heritage Advisory Committee report is from our meeting on the 21st of August. We did have another meeting yesterday, but that report is not ready yet. In our meetings, we have had a lot of discussions. Our Heritage Officer, Jess Horton, has done a lot of work on updates and to amend the local heritage register review. As we've seen earlier with 64 Robin Street, where the owners seek to have their property placed onto this local heritage register, this shows the significance of heritage values recognised within our community. As the local heritage review has been largely focused on built heritage, we are also aiming for the city's heritage to be protected in its entirety. And as part of that entirety, we are looking for opportunities and options for a significant tree register. To start with, we are hoping to identifying around 50 significant trees for our local listing. We are also very excited at potentially sponsoring 1 or maybe 2 tradesperson to attend the Longford Academy next year. This is a 6-day course where the participant will be taught aspects of building, conservation, learning hands-on skills for repairing older and heritage buildings. We are very excited to advocate for the development and retention of heritage skills within Tasmania. Another subject the committee and officers have been working closely on is the Heritage Sketch Competition, which is now well on its way, and the competition is finishing on the 1st of November. Lastly, the Heritage Advisory Committee is proposing a website update to inform the community that there are venues to query heritage information and which organisations are represented on this committee. The intended outcome is for the community to discuss initiatives and developments utilising the committee as resource. The committee would like to be involved in works plans for council-owned heritage assets and would like the City of Launceston to undertake community outreach to encourage engagement with heritage resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kai. Anything further, Councillor Pentridge as the seconder? Anything around the table? Anything further to close? Okay, putting it to the vote to accept the report. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Motion's carried. At 17, we have Community and Place Network. 17.1 we'll see as published in the agenda the quarterly report with the recommendation to receive that report there from the period 1st of July to the 30th of September. Somebody to move? Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Harris. Councillor Walker, anything to speak on?
Thank you. Thank you. The quarterly report from the Community and Place Network. I would encourage people to take the time to read these reports, which have been instigated as a part of our new CEO's program with Council to be upfront, forward-facing in terms of informing the community as to the various activities within Council, department by department. Last fortnight, I think we had a report from the Chief Financial Officer. This week we have the Community and Place Network, and I suppose you get to see the breadth and range of activities that Community and Place does encompass. I note with interest that there's a reference there to a bushland management plan as far as Carville are concerned, and considering that we did have a question from the floor today in regards to the bushland at Carville, and that there is indeed an updated bushland management plan in existence somewhere. Is that a publicly available document? And I do too, having looked at the survey, have concerns that there's very little in the survey about the bushland area there. It is all part of one title, so there's no delineation between, at the moment, the burial site and the bushland. So, for example, the bushland could be excised as a separate title. It could be placed under a covenant, a conservation covenant, that is, or given other recognition. Obviously, it has recognition if we've got a report saying, bushland management, but nonetheless, it isn't publicly clear in the survey. So I would just query that as the questioner from the public did today. Otherwise, I thank the General Manager for the report, and I note the broad, wide-ranging activities that have occurred over the past month.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Harris is the seconder.
Yes, I won't add much more to that other than I was looking at the development applications, of which there were 98 requests received and 92 were processed and completed within time, with only 2 waiting payment. Some of those included $32 million for the new multi-storey hospital car park at 280 Charles Street, which is interesting, along with redevelopment of the Coles supermarket, housing out at Newnham. But also, at the very end of the report, with the $0 against it, was 13 properties being converted to short-term visitor accommodation, average of 1 a week over the quarter, which continues to indicate to me that there is demand for people coming to the city. And we do hope that the 3, if not 4, hotels that have all got approval start to come out of the ground, because we desperately need a higher level of the hotel accommodation in the 4 and 5 star levels to be built, because that in itself will help take some of the pressure off the housing stock, of which is being converted over to short-term use. It is chicken and egg stuff. That short-term only comes about simply because there isn't enough hotel rooms to attract those people in there. There's certainly a place for short-term, and we'll never have none. There'll always be some that will suit some families and things like that much better than a couple of hotel rooms side by side, but it does just indicate what we need to have in the city, and that is some of the hotels getting up out of the ground. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Any further comments around the table? Anything to close, Councillor Walker? Great. Putting it to the vote. All those in favour of accepting? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. At 18, we have the Creative Arts and Cultural Services Network. 18.1 is the quarterly report. Recommendation is to receive the report for the period 1st of July to the 30th. Somebody to move. Councillor Britton, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Britton.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Once again, this is another one of the quarterly reports. Obviously, we do get quarterly reports anyway from the QV Mag, but just thank you, good reading, and keep up the good work. Cheers.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yes, keep up the good work. Thank you very much to the QV Mag. Look, it's a dynamic time at QV Mag, and the strategic priorities are listed there in terms of council sort of priorities and focus. But nonetheless, the QV Mag is going through a metamorphosis at the moment as we, as a council, grapple with how it will develop, how its structure may change. And so it is good for all of us to be informed as far as the ongoing activity at what is like a really vital part of what council's business is in Launceston, our cultural business. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments around the table? Anything to close, Councillor Britton? Okay. Putting it to the vote then. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. At 19, we have Infrastructure and Assets Network. 19.1 is the quarterly report. Recommendation to receive the report. Somebody to move. Councillor Harris. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Harris.
Once again, a great example of the breadth of coverage that our infrastructure group are responsible for. And also, I mean, we had some challenging times with the wind, with the weather event, with the strong winds, and as we've been talked about before, bringing down trees, but also having power to a number of our residents off in excess of 7 days, which is something just unheard of. I did note a couple of little interesting bits hidden amongst it, so it is well worth the read, particularly about under sustainability. The new Veolia recycling facility has opened at Sprayton, and this facility allows the current contractor Veolia to accept curbside recycling, which is approximately 6,000 tonnes per year, and represents a significant saving of $100 a tonne for recycling compared to the older recycling gate fees. So it's good to see that that is coming into state. What we now need is the deposit scheme on containers to be implemented by the state government, hopefully by the middle of next year, and then we'll see the volume of recycling actually decrease. But it is a interesting report to have for people to have a read of. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to stand to just acknowledge the work that goes into putting these reports together, but also the really good information that us as councillors get, but more broadly the community get in relation to what we actually do in the various divisions within council. I think it's really good that the people can actually see what their ratepayer dollars are actually being spent on, and I think a really good example of that. So I just congratulate people for the work they put into putting them together, but also the work that actually goes on that's actually demonstrated in those reports.
Thanks, Deputy. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge this report contains our response to severe weather activity over previous few months, and I note that there were a large amount of call-outs, a large amount of activity. I think we probably all saw workers out there dealing with the various trees falling and that sort of thing, and obviously saw that there were priorities. There were some trees that it's taken a few weeks to get to, and things like that. But yeah, just to thank the council staff for their response to that. As far as I'm aware, I've heard nothing but good reports back as far as council response to community need. Thank you.
Any further comments around the table? Anything further to close? Okay, putting it to the vote. All those in favour? All councillors present. The motion is carried. We have Organisational Services Network at 20.1, proposed amendments to sealed plan, 62 Parklands Parade in Newnham. Do we have anybody from the public to speak to this one? I have nobody noted. No? Okay, we'll move forward to that recommendation then. The recommendation is that Council proposes to amend this sealed plan by accepting Lot 902 from the restrictions contained within paragraph 2. I'm sure that somebody will read out that paragraph, but I will still say that it is the amendments to just adding in except lots 902 and 903, and with the exception of lots 902 and 903. Somebody to move. Councillor Walker has moved, seconded by Councillor Britton. Councillor Walker.
Well, this has been a little bit of an ongoing issue, so I'm glad to see this come to the table. In essence, this is land that has had a restriction upon it. For what reason is not always clear, but a narrow strip of land that, by removing that covenant, would allow the potential development of housing lots along that strip at Parklands Parade. Now, we're a long way away from that, of course. This is just to announce our intention to address that issue, and then there's a process that we would go through in which to do that, where people could make representations if they wish. So I do stand to support the beginning of removing the restrictive covenant and the potential for the golf course there to contribute to some housing supply in Launceston.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Britton.
Thank you. I only rise to say I agree with Councillor Walker. This is only the start of what will be a larger process, and if there are anyone that wants to put representations in, if they do have any issues with the project moving forward, now's the time, but obviously they can't do that and the developers can't proceed unless we do start this first step. So I'll be supporting this today. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Britton. I've got a question, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a question for the officers. I know that this was to come to a previous council meeting and it was delayed because the original developer of the property, we were looking to seek their input and thoughts about this. I was just wondering whether that occurred, as we did delay this by the best part of a month.
Team Leader Duncan.
Yeah, hi. So we did remove the item from consideration on the 5th of September, and they were informed of that fact. They've been informed again that the matter's back for decision today.
just as a subsequent, so there's been no other conversations whether they support or otherwise the what we're putting forward here today.
Sorry, no, they're not in support of it.
So the original proponents aren't in support of what we're doing?
Correct.
Okay, that was what I was just trying to understand, so that we do understand both sides of the equation, because they were the ones who would have put the original covenant on there. Can you also just tell me when that covenant would have been put on there? As in roughly the year at all?
Around 2010.
Thank you.
Can we just have some clarification who is not in support of the recommendation today? Is it the original?
Yeah, so it's the parties, their name, sorry. The company is now deregistered. It's the developers associated with the Grange Limited.
Right. Okay. Further question, Deputy Mayor?
Just for clarification, because I read the history of this today, I think originally, from what I can understand, is this strip of land was owned by the developer of the subdivision that's at the back of that. Yes. And I think they put that in place to prevent people from cashing in on the fact that they were actually going to do all the development and somebody just tap into their infrastructure. They then handed that to council, as I understand it, with the covenant associated. Is that how it happened? Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and to speak, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you. And I think so. I mean, I've been contacted by that proponent and a number of other people who are not necessarily satisfied with what's going forward. But as I understand it, the covenant only applies to a certain demographic of houses within the area, and they're the only people who can actually have anything to say. And I think they're the ones almost directly opposite them are the only houses that actually have any say in whether the covenant should or shouldn't be lifted. I'm aware that there are properties to the west and to the east who may not necessarily be in favour of that happening for various reasons. The issue now simply is this needs to come for a decision at some stage. This is the start of the process to put it out for public comment. It'll enable anybody who has a vested interest in that covenant to put forward any cases that they may have in relation to whether they support or don't support it. As a consequence of that, this process needs to get started, I think, so that we can move through the steps that need to go through to enable us to make a decision one way or the other.
Thank you, Deputy. Any further comments around the table? Councillor Walker to close? Nothing? Okay. Putting it to the vote then. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. Okay, at 20.2, we have recording and streaming of meetings policy. As we look here, the recommendation is that council approves video and audio streaming of meetings policy as published in this agenda. Somebody to move. Councillor Dawkins. Seconded by Councillor Harris. Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you. This is not something we've really spoken about at the table, but I guess it's understanding this is a contemporary practice and something that the new CEO wanted to bring in. I support it, and I think it'd be interesting to find out in our quarterly reports how many people might be listening and tuning in, because I suspect it's not going to be a large amount unless there's something quite controversial and we might see a little peak of interest. So, yes, it will be maybe interesting for people, but I certainly support it.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
Yes, I also support it. As you said, I'm sure we'll have interest will rise and fall depending on what we're actually addressing. This is what people nowadays expect in our world of video in your hand by your mobile phone. And so it will enable more people potentially. They can in fact be listening right now, but very few people seem to realise that that's a capability of us being broadcast via YouTube. They could be listening, but I see this as an increased public interaction and display of us being upfront with our ratepayers, really. And I'm sure other councils will take note and follow.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. I've got a question, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to just make sure we understand what the costing structure and the ongoing sort of resourcing required to actually put the show on the road, so to speak, because clearly my sense is people get the audio so they can listen to us anyway. to me to set up a whole heap of video infrastructure and manage it and maintain it and resource it during a meeting, because my experience with all sorts of stuff in this area that usually when you think nothing goes wrong, it always does. So just really interested to get a bit of a sense of how much it might cost us to put in place this for an unknown number of people who may view it, because we can actually hear it. That doesn't look like a television camera to me, but it is, is it?
They are. General Manager Louise.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Mackenzie. The infrastructure is already here, so they are cameras that can stream video. So in terms of costs, there will be no additional cost to council as a result of that. We already have invested that money a period of time ago. It may require a couple more minutes of officer time in terms of setup and making sure the technology is working effectively, but that will be resourced with the same resources that we use for our audio streaming.
Thank you.
Councillor Kai.
Is it live streaming? So it gets streamed. Oh, okay, thank you.
Councillor Walker, a question or to speak?
To speak?
Yep, okay.
Thank you, if I may, Chair. Look, this capability has been here for a couple of years now. I think there are a number of councils, larger councils in Tasmania that do already live stream video. I can understand questions around costs and things like that, especially when we might wish to have a decent director to manage our presentation to the public. And of course, we have a number of thespians in the room, so it might be that we need to improve our delivery and our presence when it comes to online video. But certainly the infrastructure's there. The technology quite often, it's automatic. It can follow voices and it can make its own decisions. So this is just technology moving on. It's a part of modern life, and I do welcome that opportunity for more access for the public in terms of council meetings, as exciting as they are.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Deputy Mayor.
Well, there you go. I just thought that was a platform to put something on later on. But anyway, I learn something every day, so it's great. Yeah, so I mean, I have no objection to a video thing. It was me, the cost and infrastructure associated with doing it, and you've answered that question, so I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Deputy. Any further comments around the table? Anything further to close? No? Thank you, Councillor Dawkins. Putting it to the vote then. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. All right, we have the 20.3 quarterly report, Organisational Services Network, with the recommendation to receive the report. Somebody to move. Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Yes, another of our reports. I think there should be 5 in total. So this is the Organisational Services Report. Shows all the good things they do, including their number of IT tickets in a quarter, which is over 3,000. Interesting that the number of letters received was somewhere around 500 only, and the number of emails was about 1,700. Those sorts of stats are all in there if you go diving in amongst the report, but it does show what's happening. Most importantly is the ongoing work with our software replacement to put us all onto the new system, which I'm just looking for. I think it's called Finance One. Is that right? Or the old one, is it? Whatever the new system is progressing, and I just couldn't find the name of it, but it's good to see that is progressing. Yeah, what was that?
The program card?
Yes, I think so. Yes, the corporate applications replacement, program replacement. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Walker, anything to add?
I was just quite fascinated with a reference to a petty claim against the council that was settled out of court. We won't know any more about that than what's listed there, but everything from the large capitalisation of council assets down to hopefully that was a small matter that was listed there in terms of council sort of obligations, legal or otherwise. So look, for those who are interested in council activities, this is great. This is an opportunity to really, when people say, oh no, we don't know what's going on in town hall, blah, blah, blah. This is that opportunity. Some of those things, there are privacy concerns. There are, there's legislation and, protections for some of the things that council, just like any other business, are involved in. But certainly this does provide that, and it does lend to the idea that over time, we're talking about technology and video cameras and things, that some organisations do have live, what you call dashboards, I suppose, where these things update automatically on a website, and you can take a snapshot at any given time and see how many people are working in a particular area, see how much money council has spent or is yet to spend in a given financial year. So as this develops, I think data is everything in this kind of business, and when that data is compiled and available, I think the next step is that gets shared in the most digestible way possible. At the moment, that's what this is. In the future, I think that could become a more interactive type of technology that we use.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Any further comments around the table? Anything to close? Nothing to close, Councillor Harris? No? Okay, putting it to the vote. Accept the report. Those in favour? All councillors present. Motion is carried. Okay, so this one here at 20.4 is going to be dependent on a couple of different factors. So thank you to Kelsey and the team and Matt for working through this with us. So we have the Chief Executive Officer's contract and Performance Review Committee terms of reference. So what we're looking for first is to move through recommendations 1 and 2, as that will be dependent on how we move forward, whether it's accepted or not, to go through a ballot system, whether it's required or not, as to the interest of the councillors. So when we look at recommendation 1, the recommendation is to approve the CEO Contract and Performance Review Committee terms of reference. Then we've also got on there, should recommendation 1 be adopted, approves that General Manager's Contract and Performance Subcommittee policy be made redundant. So looking for somebody to move recommendation 1 and 2, because if we don't approve it, then we don't need to do the actual we don't need to suspend standings to do the ballot. So somebody to move 1 and 2 that we adopt the policy and make the other one redundant. Okay, so Deputy Mayor is moving the first one, or first and second, and Councillor Dawkins. Deputy Mayor to speak to the first 1 and 2 recommendations.
Whilst I wasn't here at the workshop where it was discussed, I'm aware of the process of what we've gone through as council, and I think that we've determined that we want to go through a process where we actually have a committee as opposed to the whole council doing the review, and the process of how that committee is going to operate and work. Importantly, feeding back to all councillors before decisions are made, I think is the most important aspect of that committee. They're just an agent to pull together information and then inform back to other members of the council, and likewise it's beholden on other councillors to actually feed back to that committee on any information that they require. So to me, the process looks solid and robust.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Dawkins as the seconder. Nothing on this one. A question, Councillor Walker.
Yeah, my question, and I'm going to, that should the recommendations be adopted, and correct me if we shouldn't be talking about this now, but once this has been done, but to nominate up to 3 councillors to form a performance review committee.
Yes.
Or my understanding in the past was that the council members of the executive, the mayor and deputy, were automatically on that committee.
Yes, that's in this term of reference.
That is made explicit in here. It's just not in the review. Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Yep, thank you for that clarification. Any further comments around 1 and 2? Nothing to close? Okay, let's put it to the vote then. So all of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. which means that we now look at the recommendation 3 as this has now been adopted. So just take a moment to go through this. So just to clarify, Councillor Walker, just to your question. So Mayor, the term of reference already include the Mayor and Deputy Mayor as members of the committee. So we are now seeking up to 3 councillors. If we receive more than 3 council nominations, a ballot will need to be taken to determine which councillors will be appointed to the committee. So as we go forth now, I will ask the table who would like to be a part of the review committee. So we've got Councillor Harris, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Walker and Councillor Dawkins. I would like you to be a part of it if you want to be part of it. Okay. So being that there's 3 nominations now, it would be those 3 that we'll be voting on to be a part of the review committee.
I will withdraw my nomination. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor Dawkins. Okay, so we're looking at nominations. Councillor Harris, Councillor Palmer and Councillor Dawkins. This would be automatically put through for a vote. No ballot would be required. Okay, so if there's no further comments around that then, we'll move forward. That council, in respect of the CEO Contract and Performance Committee, a council committee convened pursuant of Section 23 of the Local Government Act 1993 appoints Councillor Harris, Councillor Palmer and Councillor Dawkins as the committee members. That is the recommendation. So looking to the vote, all of those in favour? Oh, we've got to move it first? Oh, somebody... Do we have to move it first? It's not... Yeah. Okay, somebody to move. Councillor Walker, seconded. Councillor Britton. Councillor Walker to speak.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to those who've been elected unopposed to that particular committee. Having been on that committee for quite a few years previously, it is a really important part of Council's diligent work in terms of our one employee, our Chief Executive Officer, and maintaining a professional and balanced relationship between councillors and the Chief Executive Officer and our expectations around their role. So I would encourage those who are successful on that committee to be fearless in your determination and generous in your ability to be flexible and to work for a positive relationship for the benefit of Launceston. I did withdraw my nomination because I do think it's very important that there we have some gender equity on that particular committee, because I think it's one of those committees that, while there can be quiet times, it can also be very pivotal moments where decisions have to be made that have quite an impact on our organisation and therefore on our city. So I congratulate the 3 unopposed nominations.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Nothing further as the seconder. Any further comments around the table? Okay, we'll put it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. Okay, we didn't have to suspend. We don't have to resume. Okay, we have 20.5 budget amendments. The recommendation is that council, and by absolute majority, approves the published changes to the 24-25 statutory estimate. Somebody to move. I've got the Deputy Mayor moving on this one. Seconded by Councillor Dawkins. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. And I think, again, we look at this reasonably regularly. This is just acknowledging in some instances we make assessments that things might be capital and they turn out to be operational, so we need to move it out of the capital budget into the operating budget, which is the $90,000 for the Underwood Road bridge bearing. And sometimes we have it the other way, but that's in this particular case. And I note that we've actually picked up some additional grants, which are now good things to do with the Hobbs Bridge Road and something else. And then there are the reallocations within the budget lines, which are actually the CEO has the responsibility to do, but it's just been reported for openness and transparency so that we know what they've been transferred to and from.
Yes, thank you, Deputy. Nothing further? Anything further from the table? Okay, putting it to the vote then. All of those in favour? That's all councillors present. Motion is carried. 20.6, representation at the International Place Branding Conference. The recommendation is that Council approves the visit of the Mayor and Councillor Palmer to the International Place Branding Conference in November. Somebody to move. I'm comfortable having no pecuniary interest in this. I've spoken to the CEO around any travel for councillors and professional and personal development. Yep, thank you though. Somebody to move?
I'll move for discussion.
Move for discussion, Deputy Mayor. Seconder, Councillor Britton. Deputy Mayor.
I'll stand not to support the motion. I think I've spoken to you, Mayor, in regards to it. Over many years, I've looked at what we do as council, and there's been a number of things like our sister cities and things like that where I see benefits or not benefits for us as a council to attend activities. And whilst I think this would be a laudable thing for us to go and support Launceston Central, I'm not sure that the ratepayers of Launceston will necessarily see it the same way. I think that in the current climates that we live in, where we're looking at a fairly constrained community in regards to our affordability and lots of different things, I'm not sure it's sending the right signal to our ratepayers. As a consequence of that, I support most things that we're doing as council, and we've got a couple of others to look at after this, which I'm more inclined to support. But in this particular case, I just think that it's something that I don't think we need to do, because I'm not sure that I can see the value, and I'm not sure that the community will necessarily see the value for us attending.
Thanks, Deputy. Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Look, I do have to rise to agree with the Deputy Mayor. There's a lot of travel options I can see that will be good, but I can't agree. I don't agree that sending 4 people to London is necessary.
Sure. Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you. Yes, I too have difficulty with this, but for a slightly different reason. So the idea of third places came out of the global financial crisis, when people were looking at localising kind of opportunity and kind of turning inward a little bit on community, which is how these disused spaces being used for other ways really came about. And it grew from places like Detroit, when all over the developed world that were suffering these kinds of issues, and sustainability was built right in at them. Like, it was the most important part in so many ways. Counting carbon, ensuring that we only travel when we need to. People, started using public transport more, got out of the car and got on their bikes and started walking. The idea of active transport came from there. I just feel like this has completely subverted the idea of the third space by flying 3 people across the world to attend an event. To me, it just doesn't ring true, and for that reason, I cannot support it.
Thanks, Councillor Dawkins. Councillor Walker.
I will not be supporting this motion today. Whilst I appreciate the intent that may have been behind, and certainly the chutzpah of our Mayor in promoting Launceston, and not just to Australia but to the world, I think that first and foremost, Launceston Central has made a choice to send their executive officer, which is representation enough for Launceston, I think, considering that Launceston Council does primarily fund that organisation. That's a choice for that organisation. I think that's an appropriate choice for that organisation. They have nominated for this award. This is an industry event. The merits or otherwise of industry events such as this can be discussed at length, but the point here is that it would, I think, be seen as profligate of this organisation to send additional people when For the purposes of representing Launceston, that has already taken place by Launceston Central. We come to also in the motion is that the idea that the CEO would attend as well, and I'm not sure that this motion particularly addresses that, because it's not normally this table that decides where and what the CEO would attend. So I will put a question mark over that. I think this decision today is primarily around sending council representation, councillors. We don't normally vote on staff members going to conferences or to events. So that's a question for another day perhaps. But in this instance, I will not be supporting it. And whilst I can see some benefit for Launceston, waving the flag for Launceston, and some learnings no doubt to be had, I think that those learnings are by far widely available online, no matter where you look now, in terms of efforts that can be made, in terms of increasing branding and place. There are no shortage of professionals in that area, both locally and otherwise, who can advise us on that. And in terms of the promotion of Launceston, I think in amongst the sea of other countries and other cities that will be attending that particular conference and vying for those particular awards, that I would challenge anyone to name anyone who won one of those awards last year, for example. And I've looked online and I've seen them all, and I congratulate them all, but I don't see that that has a particular benefit at this time for Launceston. I do encourage Launceston Council to send councillors and indeed our executive, mayors, deputies and managers to events that can be shown definitively to bring back specialised knowledge that we can apply to our city in the future. And in this case, unfortunately, I don't think it is one of those situations.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any further comments around the table? Councillor McMahon.
Thank you. Having a look at the workshop and meetings topics and schedules, it appears it is very heavily weighted towards place branding. So it seems completely appropriate that a member from Launceston Central would attend and that they have been nominated. I think for me, the concern is 3 people attending, and I just don't think that would pass the pub test with the public. So unfortunately, I won't be supporting 3 people attending in addition to someone from Launceston Central. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Anything to close? Okay, putting it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Those abstaining? The motion is lost. Moving forward to 20.7. Is that right? 20.7, we have Visit Parliament House in November. Council recommends that Council approves the visit of the Mayor to Canberra for Parliament House for meetings with the ministers based around our advocacy projects in the inevitable election. Moved by the Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Walker. Deputy Mayor.
Very happy to support this. I think this is extremely important. I think discernibly we can see the value proposition associated with what we're hoping to achieve out of this, which is actually we've sat down, we've thought about what it is that we as a city want to get from the next federal election. And I think it's extremely important we walk the halls of Parliament to project what it is that we think that they need to do for us here in Launceston. So I fully support the Mayor and the CEO going along to that.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, this is, almost de rigueur. It's almost, you would expect that this is core activity of our Mayor and our CEO to front up to those who hold the purse strings, who are looking to invest in regional communities and to present our best put our best foot forward. And I know that our Mayor certainly does do that on behalf of our city. When it comes to Parliament House in Canberra, of course, they get lobbied, they get visited by many, many different people. And I suppose I will, make note of the fact that I think our Mayor has the ability to make himself stand out in a crowd at times. And I think that is to your advantage in these situations. Your candid approach and you're honest and genuine engagement with people will stand you in good stead. One piece of advice I would give, having worked in Parliament House for many years myself, is to say that when it comes to asking for support from those in positions of authority who can make those decisions, is to give them something that is achievable, because sometimes what you ask is they just cannot deliver, even if they really wanted to. So to have that ability to be able to deliver something that they can say yes to, they know they can, I think is imperative in these situations, rather than something that we might all like, but is just not in the short or medium term achievable. And I wish you and the CEO all the best.
Thanks. Any further comments around the table? Anything to close, Deb? Okay, putting it to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, I'm going to abstain from that. Yep, that's everyone except me, because I'm abstaining because I'm going. Motion is carried. Okay, another one, representation. Now, there is an amendment to this one because Councillor Britton is no longer available to go. But if anybody wants to go, you can make your own amendments, whether it's this one or any of the previous ones, with a recommendation to approve attendance of the Mayor to the National Roads Transport and Infrastructure Congress in December. Somebody to move that amended motion, Deputy Mayor. Seconded. Councillor Dawkins. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. Again, I stand to support this. I think ultimately we as councillors need to be out and learning about what's going on in other jurisdictions, particularly things that are relevant to us. And I think Australia is relevant to us. And this conference, and most of you will remember 2 years ago, I went to a conference, Smart Cities Conference in Sydney, not long after this council arose. And I think that the value I got out of that, and hopefully I brought back for the council, is significant for us to be continuing to think about the innovative things that we as council can deal with. Now, you don't need to do them tomorrow, so the importance of this is to go away, take the information on board and bring it back. I'm hopeful. I see the CEO's going with you. Would love somebody from our infrastructure team to be there. I don't know whether they are planning or not, but I think that would be useful as well if that was the case. Given it's the right time of the year for our direct flights from Launceston, that wonderful airport of ours, to Perth, we can get there a lot easier than we can normally. So I think that fits in well. I appreciate the location of the conference is not as important to me as the content of it. I think local roads and the things that we're doing in regards to our city are very important. So I think it's important that we as councillors, all of us, look at opportunities for us to go and get ourselves additional education on various things that we're passionate about, to ensure that we're doing best of breed stuff. So we do have a budget that enables us to get professional development, as long as it's appropriate and that we're not all trotting out the door every other day. I think as long as it's managed appropriately, then I think it's important that we do these things.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Dawkins. Anything further around the table? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do rise to support your attendance at this National Local Roads Transport and Infrastructure Conference. I think there'll be many learnings to be made. And I would just make note that, I appreciate that Councillor Britton has looked at it and decided that it's not necessary for him to attend for his own reasons. And I would think generally this is the type of thing there where we probably only need one councillor to attend and to share their learnings from that particular event. And I do think back to the time, and I think it was at the beginning of this particular council's term in 2022, that our Deputy Mayor attended that Future Cities, Smart Cities conference and did provide a really good feedback from that in terms of the discussions that were had and the workshops and the roundtable discussions that were had. And I think it's probably pertinent that that does get dug up again, because I do remember noting at the time that was really useful information. It is something that can help inform us in decision making, so I will be making the effort to revisit that. And I would say that is the sort of a bit of an example of how these things can be done, to the point where perhaps that could be on the public record at some point. I mean, you are representing the community in that respect, and I don't think there was anything in there that's particularly confidential or otherwise, and so I see no reason why those reports, they are probably tabled through the agenda. I note that a Mayor's previous visit to South Australia was, and that there should be procedure and policy around that so we can all and our community can share and partake in that knowledge. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any further comments around the table? Putting it to the vote then. All those in favour? That's all councillors, with me abstaining. Motion's carried. Okay, 20.9, change of date request, annual general meeting. We have the recommendation here to approve the postponement of the annual general meeting from the 5th of December to the 12th of December. Somebody to move. Councillor Dawkins? Seconded? Councillor McMahon? Councillor Dawkins?
This is a simple request because we've just approved the previous matter. We now need to change the date of the AGM. I believe we've kind of been lobbied to find out who's available. We need to make sure there is a quorum, but it seems entirely appropriate that we do this in order for the Mayor to be here.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon? Anything around the table? Okay, putting it to the vote. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. 21, we have the Chief Executive Officer Network. 20.1 is the quarterly report. Recommendation is to receive the report. Somebody to move. The Deputy Mayor has moved. Seconded. Councillor Walker. Anything, Deputy Mayor?
I just think along the lines of all the other reports that have been done, they've been there. I think they're good information for us as councillors and also the community to read. So I just commend the reading to everybody and thank all of the departments who have put reports together for doing that. I think that's a really good step in the right direction from a form of transparency and information for our community. We'll probably get to benchmarking and doing all sorts of different things as we go forward. But at this point in time, I think that's a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, and it goes to the other reports, as has been said, and it just goes to show the engine room working in council. As someone just today described to me their time at the UN, they said that the table upstairs is where things are ratified, but downstairs in the basement they're smoking cigars and making really difficult trade-off decisions at any given time. And this is the reality. And if you look at the CEO's appointment diary there, you'll see the reality of working with a myriad of people across the community and synthesising that and bringing that to the council table. It is a big job, and all roads lead to Rome is a saying that I suppose signifies that is the role of a civic centre. This is what happens at some point. All businesses, all people will cross the paths with Launceston Council, and it's the CEO's department to bring that all together. So yeah, again, encourage people to have a look at that and commend the council for putting this on public display.
Great, thank you. Any other comments around the table? Nothing to close, Deputy? Okay, putting it to the vote. All those in favour? All councillors present. The motion is carried. Okay, we don't have any late items at 22, so we do look now to move into closed council. Recommendation is to move into closed council to discuss the following matters: confirmation of minutes and 2 lots of councillor leave. Okay, thank you, Councillor Palmer to move, seconded by Councillor McMahon. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. We moved into closed session. Councillor Britton. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. We close the meeting at 3:52 with the next meeting here on the 31st of October.